Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Three Black Theater. And you know, when it comes to Star Wars, when it comes to specifically Rian Johnson in regards to his future within the franchise, he needs the fans on his side. And he's trying to do it in a way that is so subtle, so interesting, that it's also so blatant, by the way. If you know what you're looking for, it's absolutely blatant, but it's being kind of discussed in a way that I don't think is fully accurate to what he's attempting to do. And we're going to talk about that. But first, if you guys like the video, do me a favor, toss it a like, leave a comment, interact in some way. You can dislike if you want. That's fine too. Right now, you kind of have to. YouTube is entirely a mess. That's how videos get traction, is through interaction. So if you like this content, help me get the word out and do that. And then potentially maybe become a Patreon, link below in the video description. Just putting that out there. But anyway, okay, so over here on Slash Film, they have an article titled Star Wars Fandom, or Rian Johnson on Star Wars Fandom and Why the Empire Strikes Back Resonates with him. And it is, again, not necessarily for the reasons that you think. It is very, very interesting. So it says here, first and foremost, that he's still in the early stages of writing his upcoming Star Wars spin-off trilogy. And I honestly don't think he's going to get it. Not unless he has the support of the fans, right? Not unless he has people coming out and saying, like, I want to see this. I have not seen anyone with a YouTube channel come out and specifically stand for this spin-off trilogy. No one has done it. No one wants to see it. No one cares, right? And the only people still talking about it are like the movie blogs that I think want to use it for clickbait headlines, and perhaps maybe some people out there that are really hopeful at Lucasfilm that it's going to kick off. I think Kathleen Kennedy specifically. Bob Iger doesn't even mention Rian Johnson, acts like he doesn't even know Rian Johnson, and Kathy only brings him up a couple times when she just wants to make it seem like the Star Wars brand is strong in regards to where things are right now. But here's what I'm talking about in regards to what his little trick is. Now, he says, as a kid, I distinctly remember being disappointed by The Empire Strikes Back. Right? Now, that's the headline you're seeing, right? Rian Johnson disappointed, Empire Strikes Back. And everyone's like, oh, damn, no wonder his movie sucked. He hated the best one. But let's go on here. Again, this is where the twisting comes into play, right? This is where you got to get the knives out and start to twist the blade. Yes, I punned a little bit of his other film. Okay. Now, he says, that was my first one. I think my dad took me when I was really young to see A New Hope. Yeah, no, I remember, especially in the context of Return of the Jedi when I was a kid, which I adored. So yeah, I remember vividly that Empire was polarizing for years, but that Empire slowly became my favorite one. You catch that one right there? Catch the little thing he's trying to say. There's like, well, guys, in the beginning, Empire was polarizing. Star Wars fans didn't like it. You know, Jerry Seinfeld's up there on stage going, what's the deal with Empire Strikes Back? Han, frozen in carbonite, alive, dead. Is Luke and Leia, they brother and sister, or they made out in the beginning of the film? I mean, what's the deal? It's my horrible Seinfeld impersonation. But the truth of the matter is, that's what he's trying to argue. And he's trying to run a juxtaposition over to The Last Jedi. Oh, but Empire was a divisive movie when it came out. It was polarizing back in the 1980s. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, not at all. I have asked people I know who were alive and well in 1980, who went to go see the movie in 1980. I specifically went to my father, who's a huge Empire Strikes Back fan. And he still talks about going and seeing the movie on opening night. He still talks about having to sit there with my mom. Keep in mind, they lived like a block and a half from the theater, so it wasn't that far of a walk. But they had to wait through 3 showings of the film in order to get in to see it. That is how sold out it was. And he loved the movie so much that he went back week after week for its entire run and watched it. Probably around 100 times is what he's told me, in theaters. That's how much of a fan of The Empire Strikes Back my father is. So when I sit there and I see this comment saying, I remember that Empire was polarizing for years, I do not fundamentally believe it. Now listen, I was born in 1982. So 2 years after Empire. So maybe it was, maybe it was back in the day. Maybe people were upset that Vader was Luke's father, but you've never seen it presented like that. Not in any bit of pop culture, not in anyone's memory. You can go to anyone you know right now who was alive in theaters back then and go, so what was the deal with Empire? Was it polarizing back in the 80s? And they're going to be like, no, it was great. Everyone loved it. It was a great cliffhanger. People wanted, the bad guys won. People wanted to see what was going to happen next. And that's exactly what Johnson is trying to ignore here. See, in his world, perhaps, it was polarizing. I vividly remember that Empire was polarizing for years, but it slowly became my favorite one. Trying to juxtapose that with, I remember vividly that The Last Jedi was polarizing for years, but eventually it became my favorite one. And that's what he's hoping for. He is utterly hoping that people sit there and go and see a Rise of Skywalker and anything else, and they go, man, you know what was pretty good? The Last Jedi. That was a solid entry into the franchise. That didn't, you know, it was polarizing at the time, but now I look back on Canto Bight and I just can't get enough of it. I just can't do it. I need more Canto Bight. I need more Rose Tico trying to spend 20 minutes of the movie rescuing slave dogs, but never mind the fact that she left the children. That's going to be the Last Jedi sequel. Rose Tico goes back to rescue the slave children and put a stop to the rich people who are wheeling and dealing on both sides of the conflict. There we go. That's a whole movie right there, right? I can't believe it's not Bight. I don't know. It's the stupidest thing. Anyway, now the interview here says, also tries to play it up. And this is where I think it's BS because Uprock sucks. It says, when the interviewer said he remembered seeing it as a kid and being disappointed that it wasn't as fun as he expected, Johnson agreed. While also working through his thoughts about the Star Wars fandom at large, saying, yeah, it sticks. That's why that's the one that, even though at the time I had a reaction to it, it stuck in me and it resonated in me. I remember the prequels and the acrimony of the prequels. I think people forget exactly the tenor of the danger. We remember because we were in the thick of it. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that anything with a passionate following always has a passionate following, and Star Wars is that even more so. You can't be angry at one side of it when it's also the reason the positive is also so passionate, you know, it's all part of the same thing. And it's always this basic thing. That's why I love it. Well, that made no sense, but I think I get what he's trying to lay down. He's trying to say like, well, you can't have the light without the dark. And so the people that are critical of The Last Jedi only make the people that like The Last Jedi more positive on Star Wars. The people that are rallying against Star Wars only make those who like Star Wars more passionate for it. And the ones that are more passionate for it, therefore draw more attention to it, therefore making it, balanced perhaps, or less. I don't know. That's kind of what he's talking about. I think he's saying like, oh, remember the acrimony of the prequels? Like no one liked the prequels. The prequels got better over time, which is essentially what he's trying to say with Empire Strikes Back, what he's trying to say about The Last Jedi. But let me explain it to you, Ryan. Let me break it down for you. The prequels were telling a story, one long story. We knew where it was going to end up, one way or the other. So the biggest problems came from dialogue choices and it being a little bit different than people wanted. Lucas wanted to tell more of a political story. You told an 18-hour car chase that made no sense. Period. Let's just sacrifice these ships instead of having everyone jump to light speed when they were only really tracking the one. I get why you did it, but at the same time, you could have had other people get away, especially if the dreadnought wasn't able to actually strike the ship. So there was a lot of flaws there. There's the aforementioned Canto Bight, which there's no point in any of the Star Wars prequels and the original trilogy where there's a 20-30 minute side adventure to a planet that no one really cares about. You could argue that perhaps going into the asteroid in Empire Strikes Back and having it be inside that big worm creature whose name I forget right now might be kind of dumb, but it still served a purpose. They were getting away from the Empire. They were trying to get away, and then they were using it to their advantage at the time, and that was a good hiding spot. It was just a good place. It was good character development between Han and Leia and about their love for one another. And you could argue that, oh, we tried that with Rose and Finn, but nobody wants Rose and Finn to get together. It was always meant to be Rose and Finn and Rey, and then the other part of that triangle was Finn and Kylo. That's always kind of how it's meant to be, but you mess with the dynamic. There's a lot of other things there too. It's like, the stuff in the prequels at least makes some semblance of sense. We understand the concept of it, right? When you have your Carrie Poppins scene, that doesn't make any sense, which is why I do think that the Rise of Skywalker will start with Luke training Leia on how to be a Jedi, because I do feel that will probably need to be there to give your scene that is probably what was the first major blow to the franchise in its entirety. That scene was worse than anything in the prequels, because at least in the prequels, it was still on a linear trajectory, getting to the end of the story, and everyone could deal with the yippee, okay, because it was a kid's film. This just came out of left field and literally smacked you in the face with a fish. that one they're going to have to explain. But trying to sit there and allude to the fact, and you're not even like being subtle about it, you're saying it, alluding to the fact that you want there to be people that come and look at The Last Jedi and go, no, 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 it's eventually going to be as good as Empire. It's eventually going to be seen as better than it could be. Now, I will grant a concession of that point in one area, and that is Attack of the Clones, which some people have really looked at as being worse than The Phantom Menace in some aspects. I now look at through the lens of a much different lens, and I appreciate the film for what it was, but not because of what exactly Lucas directed, but it was of what he was attempting to do. He was attempting to tell a more politically based story. Rian Johnson didn't know what to do with the characters of which he was given the keys to the kingdom for. He didn't know what to do with them. So let's go on this long car chase. Let's have Luke throw away the lightsaber. Let's have Snoke die in the second act. Oh, you know, let's have a reverse Hoth. So instead of ice, it's snow, but it's at the end and not the beginning, right? Like, it's just, he did it all. He just threw it at the wall. He has already admitted he set out to make a divisive movie, and the problem lies with the leadership at Lucasfilm that let him. So, no, Ryan, your movie will never be seen like Empire. And the fact that you were disappointed by Empire in the beginning doesn't necessarily say anything. You expected it to be more fun. You wanted it to be more fun. Like the first one was more fun. This was a bit darker of a film. You know, I get it. I don't know how old you are, but if you know, I remember, and I'll be fair, when I was a kid, Return was my favorite movie because I like the Ewoks. I still love the hell out of Empire, but Return is my favorite. Now, as I got older, Empire is my favorite. And it's not because it's a better movie. It ultimately is, because I feel it just conveyed a lot more of what was happening. Your movie is not that. It will never be that, because it has so many glaring plot points or plot holes and just useless bits that even trying to apply it with that logic of going back and looking at it again through a different lens is still going to come to the same conclusion, which is that you left everybody wanting, and not in a good way. But anyway, I'll leave it to you guys, your thoughts, your opinions. Do you think that eventually The Last Jedi will be seen as a better movie, like, I guess, Empire or The Attack of the Clones? I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments below. Have yourself a great day, guys, and peace out.